If you were told that you get a car and it's the only car that you're ever going to have for the rest of your life, how are you going to treat that car? Way better than we're treating our bodies. We are doing things on a daily basis that is destroying us. I talk to all of these different companies and I'm asking them, what do you see as the biggest movers on health? And it's not hyperbaric chamber, which yes, I do that. It's not plasmapheresis. It's not EBU. It's not peptides. It's not all these amazing things. It's the things that you do every single day.
Kayla Barnes is one of the most renowned females in health optimization and longevity. She is the co-owner of Live the Wellness Space, one of the country's most innovative precision medicine and biology upgrading clinics, the creator and host of the Longevity Optimization podcast, and co-founder of the Health Optimization Fund. Kayla's goal is to live to 150 through her practiced methodologies, and this is how she plans to do it. Welcome to Toxic-Free with KB, Kayla Barnes-Lentz. Welcome to Toxic-Free with KB, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of what it means to live a toxic-free life. I'm your host, KB. I'm a toxic-free lifestyle advisor and a diehard advocate for clean living. Kayla Barnes-Lentz is here on the show. Kayla, I have a burning question for you.
Yeah.
Here we go. What makes you believe that you will be living to 150?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a combination, right? So I just turned 34 about 2 weeks ago. So I started really young and I'm really focused right now on extending my health span, which is the number of healthy years we live, right? I don't want to have chronic disease, but I speak at some of these top conferences on longevity and innovation. And from what I'm hearing, the combination of both AI and what that's going to do for really giving us tailored recommendations for our own health and making it more accessible too, right? Because, I co-own a longevity clinic, so I have all these amazing resources, but not everyone does. So I think the advent of AI is going to be a huge player in extending lifespan, but also the incredible therapies that we have coming down the line. So the way I see it is if I can keep myself healthy until the point that we hit, and in the industry, they call it the longevity escape velocity, then we'll actually be able to rejuvenate organs. So as an example, like one of the therapies that they were talking about in Gstaad, Switzerland at a conference I was at not too long ago was they are actually able to take young mitochondria and integrate them via IV into older mitochondria. So it's really about extending your health span to get to a place that in the next, I think 10 to 20 years, we're able to actually rejuvenate organs. So I don't think that living to 150 is out of the question whatsoever. That's what we intend on doing. And I'm super excited.
I love this enthusiasm, by the way. But let me ask you something that just kind of clicked into my head. You want to live to 150. You want to get there. You and your husband both are on the trajectory to do that. You've been written up in numerous articles. And perhaps you can talk more about that, what they wrote about you. So everyone that has not read the articles, and we'll link them for sure. But what if everyone gets on this bandwagon and they're like, oh gosh, Kayla, I want to do this too. And they're learning from you. What about the environmental impact of that? The toxicity rate that happens to that, perhaps waste, if people are not thinking like you and they're not thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to live much more minimally, right? How is that going to impact the environment, do you think?
Well, first of all, the environment we can't think of nature and ourselves as separate entities. Like what we do to the planet, we're also doing to ourselves.
Sure.
We see that I do a lab called the Total Toxic Burden, right?
Ooh.
This is a really comprehensive test that combines environmental toxins, molds and mycotoxins, heavy metals, and so much more. So we see that we're polluting the environment, which is then polluting us. So I have one of the lowest toxic burdens we've ever seen, but I have to go way out of my way in order to make that happen. Most individuals that, for example, come in at the clinic, you have 20 things, 15, 20 things in the high range. So just to be simple, the test is a high range, a medium, and a low range of toxicities, right? And it's looking at hundreds of different potential toxins from, PFAS and BPA, which are environmental toxins, and phthalates to things like lead and mercury, other heavy metals. And then we're also looking at mycotoxins and, molds.
Right.
So we're definitely polluting the planet, which is also incredibly important. If you think about, I believe that the Farmer's Almanac says, and not to be, figure tactic here, but we have something like 60 harvests left. We have destroyed our soil with this monocropping culture. So that's one crop being heavily sprayed with things like glyphosate. So not only is glyphosate ruining our soil, it's also ruining our health. Glyphosate is just absolutely universal. Almost, if not every single American has it in their system because it is so heavily used, right? Glyphosate is a pesticide, herbicide, and we know that it's a carcinogen. So we have to stop destroying the planet because it'll also help increase our lifespan and health span just by doing that one thing. So I don't see them as being separate. I mean, I'm in a big school of thought of combining ancestral practices with modern science, right? So the ability to get sun, I know it's a very controversial thing in the longevity space and when, you speak to dermatologists, but it's like we are light beings.
Totally.
We used to
Biophotons, right?
rise with the sun, fall asleep with the sun. Now our circadian rhythms are so out of whack. People are staying up all night watching Netflix and scrolling their cell phones when they should be in bed sleeping. So what we do to the planet, we're doing to ourselves. So I think it's really something that needs to be addressed. And when I'm developing my protocols and routines, I mean, I'm supporting and purchasing, regeneratively produced vegetables, fruits, and, only doing grass-fed, grass-finished. These are practices that will help the earth in the long run that we've really just gotten away from.
Ancestral practices. I love that you pointed that out because a lot of people think that making a change in their life, and I want to kind of point this out here and we'll touch on it more and more, that it's so difficult and so hard. And I feel like a lot of the times that could be excuses or cover-ups of fear, and saying like, oh, I don't know if I want to change, right? Or the uneducated, like, I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what I should be doing. But it's simple practices like going back to what the ancestors did, the cavemen, the cave women did, right? I love that you brought that up 100%. I also love that you brought up the Farmer's Almanac because my husband laughs at me because I'm like, oh, I wonder what type of winter we're going to have this year. I'm like, I'll just check the Farmer's Almanac. And he's like, really? He's like, that again? So I love that you're like on my page about that. But I want to jump into really quickly. You mentioned the total toxin burden or toxic burden protocol.
Total toxic burden. Yeah.
Okay. So this test that you're referring to, is this something that people can order themselves or do they need to go through a practitioner? And if so, where can they get it?
Yeah. So it is needed to be called in by a practitioner or a clinician. You can, I'm sure, just look. So I get this test through a company called Vibrant Wellness. Yep. And it's essentially multiple tests combined, but you can easily find it. Also, I believe you might be able to go on Rupa and find like a provider near you.
Okay.
I love the Institute for Functional Medicine. So at my clinic, we, get a lot of people from the IFM. And if you go into ifm.com or .org, we can link it in the show notes. You can find a functional medicine practitioner because a lot of these tests, they are quite an investment. So you want to have someone that actually knows how to read it and give you a protocol. Receiving information is great, but if you don't know what to do with it, then it's not super helpful. So most of the times, like, at my clinic, if you're in Ohio or California, you can see practitioners at my clinic, but the actual protocol is included in the price of the test. So you get a consult and a plan of what to do after you get the results.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I'm doing this one because I've done a whole slew of different tests, whether it's GI maps or the mycotoxins, all the things, but to have something that's like a one-stop shop bundle that I can just kind of like revisit every once in a while to see what my levels are. I think that's excellent. Definitely, guys, put that in your note sheet. Put it in your wish list for the holidays for sure. Yeah. I have a practitioner back in Santa Barbara at the Longevity Center. She actually, I think, just went to the conference in Switzerland that you were at.
Yeah.
We had this conversation, and I think I was referring to, oh my gosh, LeBron James. There was something about how much he invests in his wellness and his recovery. And I was talking to her, and I was like, me too. But, it makes me feel so great at the end of the day. And she goes, well, what would life be without investing in yourself? Like that's the best investment that you can make. So when it comes down, I want to kind of put this out there, and you'll probably agree that, things cost money, but also you spend a lot of money on things that are perhaps hurting you, killing you or even just wasting your time, just
Yeah.
junk. So why not spend your money on something that's going to enliven you,
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, I hope that this begins to change, right? Like, I would like to see this become more widely available. But I have quite a few thoughts on this topic. One is like, I don't have a budget for handbags or nightclubs or alcohol or dining out. I don't do any of those things because A, they don't promote my health, but also I would rather put my resources into the one body that I have. If you were told that you get a car and it's the only car that you're ever going to have for the rest of your life, how are you going to treat that car? Way better than we're treating our bodies. Like, we are doing things on a daily basis that is destroying us right now and definitely destroying us in the future. If you think that your health is bad now, think about what it's going to be in 10 years if you don't stop, overindulging in these ultra processed foods, if you don't stop being sedentary. I mean, you mentioned earlier that there's a variety of reasons, and one of them could be lacking discipline, right? For not actually executing. Number one, the biggest things, and I talk to all of these different companies. I have a great relationship with even True Diagnostics, and I'm asking them, what do you see as the biggest movers on health? Like, what's the biggest lever to pull? And it's not hyperbaric chamber, which, yes, I do that. It's not necessarily plasmapheresis. It's not EBU. It's not peptides. Not all these amazing things. It's the things that you do every single day. What do? We eat, we breathe, we sleep, we move, and we have social connection, right? And we drink water. So if you can optimize those areas, drinking water, get, reverse osmosis water filtration system, get an air filter, go to bed early, go to bed at 8:30. I'm in bed every day by 8:30, and then I wake up naturally. I don't need an alarm clock. And when the sun goes down, we're not meant to be eating. We're meant to be sleeping when it's dark out. So prioritize sleep, move your body. We were never meant to be these sedentary beings. Like, we need to move. We need to have low-level movement. We need to have intentional exercise. We need to have mobility. These things take time. But if you think that it's hard now, think about how much harder it's going to be in the future if you don't prioritize these things. Yeah. Because living with chronic disease and a scary diagnosis is a lot worse than putting in that effort now. So, our brains aren't naturally wired to want to do the hard thing for an extended period of time. Our brains are wired to want to have the most reward with the least amount of resistance. So yes, it's something that we have to go against on a daily basis. But I always recommend people, you have to know what your purpose is. Like, why do you want to be healthy, right? If you don't have a purpose, you're never going to stick to this. So when I first started doing all of this, I had my purpose right in front of me all the time. I wrote it down. And when I originally started, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17. I started my first company. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just figuring it out. It was a marketing company back then. And I was super interested in health too. So it was more skewed towards health brands. But I was just learning on the go, but I had to remind myself every day that I want a different life than I had when I grew up. I did not grow up from a super healthy family. I didn't grow up with any money. I think a lot of people on the internet now see that I have all these nice things. I got them because I worked really, really, really hard for them, like most entrepreneurs that do great things, right? And I had to remind myself, I want to have a life that I never had. And so that's why I have to be healthy, because I have to be able to be more focused. I have to be more motivated, and I have to have the drive that it's going to take to get me there.
I was actually just going to jump into that because I was very curious. Whenever I talk to people, whenever I interview people, or just on the street, I'm curious about their childhood upbringing, because me personally, I'm really diving deep into my inner child work. I think ever since I got married, a lot of things have started to come up. And, I was talking to you how I have 3 stepchildren. A lot of, mirror balls are coming at me. So I was curious, I'm like, how did you get into this?
I have discovered this product that has literally changed my life. I use it time and time again when basically I feel as though I need a little more oomph in my self-care routine. I'm talking Medicine Mama's Vulva Care. Guys, did you know that vulvas are a vital part of women's health? Yeah, they have been ignored for far too long. And Vulva Care creates the space and time for women of all ages to get in touch with every part of their bodies. Medicine Mama has done just that. They've created a line of vulva skincare products that are hormone-free, OBGYN approved, clinically tested, and have over 12,000 five-star reviews. Probably more by now. I use the Vulva Balm every single day, and let me tell you, it is so nourishing and luscious and doesn't disrupt my vaginal pH. Holla frickin' Luya, ladies. Try Medicine Mama for yourself and let me know what you think. Get 15% off all menopause, pregnancy, postpartum, grooming, and even sexual wellness products. You know what I'm talking about. You can use my code TOXICFREE15 at checkout. Again, that code for 15% off all purchases, use code TOXICFREE15. Guys, if you want to learn more, tune into Toxic Free with KB, episode number 282, with the Medicine Mama herself, Dr. Claire Bertuccio. I have two amazing fur pups. I've got Poppy and I've got Harley Girl. I'm just pretty much a dog freak. When I found Botanical Bones, I had to contact the owner and I had to ask, oh my gosh, can I get some Treatos for my pups? Of course. She sent a whole bundle my way and my dogs are obsessed. So they have 3 specific formulas that I want to shout out, and they are based upon traditional Chinese medicine, which y'all know me, I'm a huge fan of that. So they've got Inner Glow, which has chaga, dandelion root, and ginger. They've got Flower Power, which is blueberries, red clover, and reishi. And they've also got Balance and Calm, which has ashwagandha, lemon balm, and hemp seeds. So, of course, you can pick your quote unquote pup's favorite type of flavor, but let me tell you, the dogs will love them all. And trust me, I have literally sniffed them myself, and I'm thinking about trying a handful or two. I want to give you guys 10% off these amazing treats that your dogs will love and then will thank you for time and time again. 10% off using my code HONEST10, because we could all use a little more honesty in our diet, and I think our pups could too. So head on over to botanicalbones.com and use code HONEST10 for 10% off. Let me know what y'all think.
Well, going way back, I grew up in a real small town in Ohio and grew up on a very standard American diet. Was eating Pop-Tarts. We had food stamps at times. Anyone that had a free lunch card, you know what I'm talking about. So I definitely didn't grow up with this sort of lifestyle, right? My parents were divorced and, I could share more of the story. We don't have to go into all the details, but my mother was married several different times. So there was, in my opinion, I had to upgrade the software of my brain, which is how I thought, to be able to achieve great things. And I also had to upgrade the hardware of my body and my brain, right? So that's how I treated it, exercise, food, all of that. So also, though, diet culture was a really big thing in my family, right? So my mom was always on a diet. My grandma was always starting a diet on Monday. It was always starting the diet on Monday,
Seems like the time, right?
Yeah, it's always on Monday. So I had an awareness, just from childhood of eating healthy, right? But it was not really eating healthy. My mom was doing the best she could, but it wasn't the nutritional advice I would, now follow. So when I got into college, I wanted to start studying nutrition. So I did. And I started to learn more about how the body worked. And I just started making small upgrades. Like, it was nothing crazy at first. Just getting rid of, conventional foods and opting for organic and, really trying to have more time not eating. So I wasn't just eating snacks all day, which is what was normal in my house. We would have a snack before bed. So I just started to research and, not only learned my studies, but I did a ton of self-education. So found people like Mark Hyman and Dave Asprey and all these people over a decade ago that were talking about this. Later, I really decided, it was we put so much focus on the body, right? Like how we look. And so I was I found Dr. Jana Lehman, who is this brain doctor who revolutionized psychiatry by actually looking at the brain. I did all of his coursework, and then I started thinking, okay, this is how I'm going to change my life, right? I'm going to upgrade my brain with my diet and my exercise and my sleep and all that stuff. And then I'm going to start upgrading the software, these limiting beliefs that have been instilled in me. Nobody ever told me that I would be where I'm at now when I was a kid. That was never even a thing. So got obsessed with brain health, really dove deep into that, kind of started this concierge brain health coaching practice. Worked with like some executives and athletes just to take their cognitive performance from good to great through all the, modalities and therapies we talked about. 4 years ago, I co-opened a longevity medicine clinic, which has been incredible because it's one thing to read about the research and hear from studies what works, but it's completely different to see in a clinical practice people getting better from these really innovative therapies. We do ozone, we do NAD, we do methylene blue, we have a red light bed, a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, an ozone sauna, we do ozone IVs, e-boost, stem cells. I mean, we literally do everything. So it's super fun to see how those therapies are benefiting our patients in such a massive way. So yeah, it's been a real long build. It wasn't overnight. I changed everything. It was incorporating these habits and building on them over time.
So that was 4 years ago. You were about 30 years old when you started the longevity.
Yeah, I think I was 29.
The wellness center. Mm-hmm. But you were talking about also the brain health, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a pivotal moment in your life. You went from nutrition to brain health, studying the brain health. And so how old were you at the time when you were starting to work with these high-class athletes and all these public figures? And it sounds also, Kayla, that you really dove in deep and did a lot of self-education along the way. I think that's something that we need to kind of like put out there into the universe and tell people that like people are not always going to feed you the answers.
Yeah, they're not. They're definitely not.
Right. Going back to the discipline with all that, like you have to self-educate yourself, take a little bit of information, self-educate yourself, use yourself as an experiment. I always like to tell people that. Your body has been given to you as a self-experimentation tool.
We're all super unique. So, like I've published my labs and my protocol, but we're all bio-individual. So it also requires you to look at what your protocol should be, right? But I mean, we have to be the CEO of our own health. I mean, even all the doctors that I interview on my show, right? Everybody says, and I love doctors, they all go into it for the right reasons. But, everyone says we weren't taught about nutrition. We weren't taught about holistic healing. It's very segmented. It's, over 100 different subspecialties in medicine. You go to one person for your gut, another person for your brain. It's like, no, this is one body. This is all connected. Yes. So it requires you to be really self-aware. Yes, trying things on yourself. Of course, you want to be really safe. I have, a whole medical team now that looks at my protocols, that looks at my labs, helps to direct me. But in the beginning, it was a ton of just research and podcasts and, self-learning and coursework. I did IIN. I did this IHP program. I mean, I'm never not in a program of some sort. I mean, I'm kind of kicking around, maybe going back to school. USC has a program in longevity, thinking about doing a PhD. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't have a lot of time. So
I know, right?
I don't know if that's going to work out. We want to have a lot of kids soon.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm always learning. I'm also learning just like you are, right? I have a podcast as well. And I'm interviewing, doctors and researchers every single day almost. And I learn a ton. So you have to have a desire to know what's best for your body.
You have to have a desire to know what is best for your body. I love that. I think that desire sometimes stems from wanting better. You grew up in a lifestyle, you're like, okay, I want something different.
And I wanted something totally different. I was committed. I was determined. I was like, my life has to be totally different. And fast forward, it is. There's like zero similarities. And I'm not saying that in a bad way.
No, I get it.
I just knew that I wanted so much more.
I get it. Like I can relate to you 100,000%. I was the girl from Kansas that, the youngest of 3 children. And my parents were divorced and we had a normalized dysfunctional household, and I literally felt like I was floating around in a cloud all day. Like I was just like, this is my life, playing imaginary, things, imaginary house, whatever I was, just creating in my mind what I wanted. And I knew from a young age that I needed something better. I needed something more. And I think now I was telling you I'm 37 and I'm dealing with a lot of inner child work coming back to me. But also you were talking about chronic illness, right? And you don't want to live a life later on down the road where you have to really come face to face with these chronic illnesses. And I unfortunately have had to deal with some of those things that have, shaken out of me through a lot of trauma work. And I think, if we can, join forces, you're doing a great job with this, but the preventative aspect of things can go a long way. And it starts from the top down, right? You're going to be a mama, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
We're praying for that.
Yeah.
And, it starts at the top down. Obviously, I'm going to tell you from being an overnight parent, it's not always easy. You try your best, but leading by example is a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Jumping back into you putting your data, all of your labs out there for the world to see, whether people know how to read them or not.
Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful because you're a female and you're in a biohacking space. And a lot of the reports that we have been seen out there are all based on male studies. So what was your initiative to put your tests out there in the first place?
I mean, it started quite a while ago. I used to just put them out like kind of one by one as new results would come in. But number one, I think if you're going to be sharing what you're doing, it also makes sense to be sharing your results. I mean, there are so many people on the internet that can give advice, but if you're not comfortable enough to share what that's doing to your body, then that's a question mark in my mind. The second thing is you're exactly right. We have amazing men that are in this industry, right? And leading the charge, but women are not smell men. So when I first got really into this and I was following more male protocols, it didn't work out well for me. You can be cold plunging as a woman too much. That's not really an issue with men because we have this entire cycle that we need to be taking into consideration. I now build like my entire life from my nutrition to my workouts to my therapies around my menstrual cycle as a woman. And then obviously you have different phases. So I'm, obviously still menstruating. Then you'll have perimenopause and you'll have menopause and you'll have postmenopause. So all of those areas of life require something different. It's not just a one size fits all. So I think it's really important. We know that women have such an interest in this. We also know that women are developing autoimmune conditions, at about 4x plus that of men. I mean, chronic disease is 60% of Americans have at least one chronic disease. 40% have two chronic diseases. I mean, our health is in a state of complete sadness, disarray, and it's a massive issue. And we have to take control of that. So it's been fun for me to share as a woman, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm not doing because I found it to be too much or it's not working. This is what my doctors are saying a woman should be doing. And we just experience different things. So I think it's been an enjoyable experience to share those labs. And, as new things come across my plate, like as an example, when we moved here recently, there was a short time that we didn't have whole home water filtration. And going back to that toxic burden, I do one once a quarter. So I see pretty quickly any changes that are occurring within my toxic load. And so I saw a couple of toxins that are also known to be found in our water supply coming into me, even though I had a shower water filter too, but it doesn't filter enough. So that is interesting because, women tend to have these higher toxic burdens. So if I share what I'm doing and what even doesn't work or, what I'm experiencing throughout life, I think that is something to at least think about for women. And then I'm sharing what worked. So hopefully it can be helpful to people.
My other question on this that I was just thinking about is, the diversity of women, right? Obviously men are diverse too, but they're pretty much, it's like shopping, right? Women have all the curves. It's like, oh gosh, a pair of jeans don't fit me. They look great on you. But guys, it's pretty much like, okay, what's your waist size? What's the leg length? It's pretty cut and dry. I want to go into like the ethnicity with that. I was thinking about this because when we were talking, I was like, okay, well, Kayla and I look very different too. So we have that other aspect into it, the ethnicity of it, that also might drive the lab reports. So that's another thing to consider.
Yeah.
Does that have any sort of, ancestral blueprint on us as well and how we should be navigating our biohacking system?
Absolutely. But this is also why I encourage everyone, if you go to my protocol, that you start with the genetics test.
Mm.
Because not only is there, differences in ethnicities, but also just genetically, we all have different predispositions. And I always recommend that. So I
Mhm.
do a test called 3x4. I think it's the easiest to read as a consumer. You can buy it as a consumer, direct to consumer, and then you can get the report. I've done like 6 different genetic tests, but I think that's the easiest one to read.
Okay.
I recommend starting there. I'm not an expert on all of the nuance, but for example, I know that the darker your skin tone, the more vitamin D, you require,
Mhm.
because we could sit out in the sun and get a ton of sun exposure and increase our levels fairly quickly. But if our skin was darker, we'd have to be out for a longer time. And we know that vitamin D is just one marker that's incredibly impactful on our health. It actually functions not even just as a vitamin, but as a hormone.
Mhm.
So that's one example. But I think if you start with the mindset of bioindividuality, looking at your genetics, and then looking at your own labs, I'm not ever trying to give advice like this is exactly what you should do. It's like more so start thinking about it in this way, right? Like start thinking about skin issues or acne as a gut issue versus like a lack of a acne cream issue. It's like, here's a gut test. Because a lot of people have never even been told about a gut test before.
Mhm.
And then once they get the results, or what test should they do? So I'm just trying to document what I'm doing, and hopefully that will inspire people. I also try to lay it out really easy. It's like, if you have, X symptoms, you might want to consider this type of testing, right? If you have these issues, maybe consider this one, because I know that it's super expensive and it's hard to just go out and get every single test that I do on like a quarterly basis. So I try to like list out, this is what I would do if I had $400 or, $200 and take it up from there.
The priorities.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
I think one of the hardest things to incorporate change into our lifestyles is probably our cleaning products, because a lot of people think just because that smell is coming out, that means it's clean. But truly, y'all, you've heard me talk about this time and time again, that smell could actually be a toxin. So something that I've actually incorporated in our household, and I actually send the kits to all of my friends and family members as gifts time and time again, is Branch Basics products. Guys, Branch Basics never set out to sell soap. They truly are on a mission to help people create healthy homes and experience the power of pure. I am totally on this game as well. And someone that has been highly sold is our house cleaner. She has helped toss the toxins with me, and she uses Branch Basics for all of our cleaning necessities at our house. And let me tell you, we don't always live in a clean space. We've got 3 kids, 2 dogs, I've got a husband, so we've got a lot of things to clean up. 3 of the things that have really popped into my shopping cart lately are their new formula laundry detergent. Their toxic-free candle, because baby girl loves a good bath time and sitting by the candles at night when she enjoys her good veggie bowls. And also their hand soap. But 2 of the staples that I live by in our household, and trust me when I tell you I can use this for everything, even on my pups, is their oxygen boost and their liquid gold concentrate. So guys, I'd like to help you get started on your cleaning by giving you 15% off all starter kits. And also, guys, this applies to their hand soap and their toxic-free candle, all the things. Not only will you get your starter kit, but you can get a whole bunch of other items to stock up on. Give the gift to yourself and use my code over at Branch Basics, which is Toxic-Free KB. Guys, again, if you want 15% off, use Toxic-Free KB.
I started this show because obviously toxins, that whole subject of toxins and this life that we live in, it's a big cloud bubble. Wow, we all get it. It's overwhelming. And people are like, okay, now I have to get tests. What do I get? A lot of things can be fear daunting. And so I think by backtracking and having people realize, yes, but you can do something about it. Given if you have information, right?
Yeah.
So I think investing in that, giving clients or ourselves almost like a navigation path to go towards, start with one thing, right? It's like when I started doing yoga way back when, one simple practice can catapult a whole nother trajectory of life. Then maybe you start eating differently. Then maybe you start talking differently. Then maybe you start driving in silence, just being with yourself and your thoughts. Then maybe you go for hikes, whatever it is. So I love that you brought out like, okay, you have X amount of dollars, but you can still do it. Maybe save up and say like, all right, this is going to be my priority. This is my gift to myself this year.
Yeah.
We can do that.
And you also don't have to have testing for, tests are great, but let's just say you can't afford tests. Then we can just operate off of like the basis of knowledge that we have. We know our environment is toxic. So I would recommend people go to the environmental working group and look up their Skin Deep database, to start to swap out more toxic products for less toxic products. We have, I think, 80,000 chemicals that have been introduced into our food supply, our makeup products, personal care products that have not necessarily been vetted for safety. So that will give you a resource. So you can start doing things. We know that tap water is loaded with chemicals and can have heavy metals and can have pharmaceuticals, all of these different contaminants. Get a reverse osmosis whole home water filter or countertop water filter, whole home water filter. Either way, a countertop filter is a couple $100. And stop using plastic water bottles. Start using glass only.
Agree.
There are things that we don't have to test for that we know if we did test for would come back high. If you're drinking out of a lot of plastic water bottles, you're going to have high levels of BPA. So start to, swap out products and reduce or eliminate things. We know exercise is good for you. We know getting morning sun in the eyes is good for you. It's these habits that we do on a daily basis that actually are relatively low cost. Go to bed early. That you don't even need to test for. It's super fun to get the data. I mean, I'm obsessed with the data. I love the fact that I can do a test and I can see tiny incremental changes right away. We were being interviewed for this German news platform the other day. They flew out from Germany to, film our routines. And one of the questions they asked are you scared that your husband will just, die out of nowhere? And I'm like, absolutely not. From a health standpoint, we're tracking everything. We're doing imaging, full body MRIs. We're doing clearly soft plaque analysis. So the biggest causes of death, heart disease, cancer, stroke, we're looking at all of those lab markers. So nothing is going to come by surprise. Even, let's say, I do a liquid biopsy every year. So that's going to catch cancer at the earliest stages combined with a full body MRI. So yes, could he be, or either of us be hit by a bus? Sure, we have no control over that.
That's my question.
But I'm definitely not concerned about some random health incident happening out of nowhere because we have all the data. And when I see things trending in the wrong direction, we immediately course correct. So when you have the data, you can then let the data, tell you what to do.
How does that affect your life? You're so focused on course correcting and getting the data and not making the wrong decision. How does that affect your overall life, your well-being and happiness and joy and being spontaneous and letting your freak flag fly,
I don't know if I have a freak flag, but
oh, come on. Everyone has freak flag.
I'd have to get a better definition of what that means. But for me, it's the best feeling. Like people ask me this stuff all the time. Like people have been like, oh, you live in a bubble and, it has to be so sad and you're not drinking alcohol and you're not doing this. First of all, I found a partner that loves all of this. Like if I were married to someone, it would never work if they weren't as excited about this as I am. So we get to do it together, which is amazing. But even before that, I loved it. I mean, I have an I get to mentality. Like I get to live this life.
Totally.
My professional and personal life. So I'm not expecting everyone to relate to this because it could seem totally insane. I have like a 2-hour morning routine, an hour midday routine, an hour and a half to 2-hour evening routine. I don't eat out. I don't do all these things. I'm in bed every day by 8:30. I work out whether I want to or not. That can seem like a lot for people, but it's literally my job. You know what I mean? So, but I made it my job because I wanted it to be my job. So from running a clinic, it's my personal life, professional life. My husband is completely on board and loves it. I mean, our first date was in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I asked him for his labs before we went on our first date. I sent him like 7 more labs to take. He calls me our chief health officer. So that's my role in the house, which is perfect. So for me, I love it. It doesn't feel, I think we need to change the way that we think about fun in this, in the city, in this country, in the world, really. to me, going out for drinks with friends, that's not fun.
Mhm.
I would rather, because then you're going to feel bad that night. You're going to wake up, your Oura ring is going to have a bad score. You are not going to feel incredible the next day. You're probably not going to wake up at the time you want to. That doesn't sound like fun to me. I also know that alcohol is a poison. So if I can't bring myself to be drinking something that I know is hurting me. I can't
Mhm.
bring myself to eat something that I know is going to hurt me. I mean, why would I do that? To me, it doesn't make any sense. So I've changed the way I look at things. I would rather have people over at 4:30 or 5 p.m. and host an incredible organic regenerative dinner, spend time with people that I love. I mean, I prioritize social connection and community, but I think it's all about perspective.
I love that. Okay, so husband, does Kayla's routine on a daily basis kind of sound like mine? Like everything that you listed, I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds like me. Obviously, I get thrown off a little bit, sometimes if we have the kids and it's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, carpool or whatever. But he's such a gem. I want to jump into just partnership,
Mhm.
right? And how they truly are, like a vital piece of that joy and that happiness
Mm.
that might be lacking in solitude. Even though you certainly can create peace amongst yourself in your routines, but sometimes it gets lonely. But to have that support system of Warren, that's amazing. And my husband as well. Certainly I told you he's the ball, I'm the china shop. And we
Mhm.
came together and we didn't live extremely similar lives and we're still very different, but he learns so much from me. And even though he doesn't live all the type A moments and disciplinary actions that I do,
Mhm.
he is my number one cheerleader, and
Yeah.
he supports that. And he just wants the best out of me in those moments. And he tries here and there, but I think that's something that everyone needs to take into account, that oh, well, I can't do this because my partner's not on board with it. But also your partner should be supportive of you. They should be supportive of you wanting to do better for yourself, whatever that aspect is. So I think that's a really good point to kind of throw out there. So something that also kind of made me laugh was you asked Warren for his tests.
Mhm.
Whatever test that he had. Now,
Yeah.
did he have him currently, or was he like, oh, shoot, I need to go get some tests done?
No, he actually had them. I mean, health, we had a couple of key pillars that were incredibly important to us, and health was obviously a big one for both of us. So he was super excited, I think to me, because it's like my whole world or a big part of it. No, he had the test ready to go. We had them very well organized and emailed them over. It was more basic than, what I then sent back, but I sent back like a genetics test and a gut test and a total toxin test and, a 200, marker lab that he got drawn. And people are like, oh, well, what would have been the cutoff, for you not to have went out with him? No, Warren had so many incredible qualities. It wasn't that this is an in or an out thing. But it showed, he had interest because, yes, being interested in health was something that, was a requirement for me because it's my whole life. And then number two, whatever came from those results, I would have been able to help him fix. And then would have also shown, was he interested in fixing them, right? So, I mean, he just passed with flying colors from A to Z. I mean, our first date here in LA was at Erewhon. He was a member. He worked out. He knew cold plunging. He was talking about on the Instagram. It was just all perfect. They ran this one funny photo. His fridge was very good, right? But he took a photo of his fridge and sent it to me when we were dating early on. This was in one of the first articles that we had together. And I sent it back and I circled the things that I would remove. And it was I saw a Gatorade peeked in the back. I saw a LaCroix in there. And it was just so funny that they ran it in this press article. But no, he's completely on board. He's obsessed with it. I'll just tell him, hey, we have a blood draw. He'll give 20 vials in a morning before he runs to work. I'll tell him what the results say. This is what we're going to change from the protocol. But what's great is that, they often say that, let me put this in the best way I can, that let's say weight issues, for example, run in families, right? That you can be genetically predisposed. But what I've seen, me creating our protocols for me and my husband, I almost don't even have to do all of his labs because we're living in the same home and we're eating the same things and we're doing a lot of the same activities. So if my tox burden is high, then that means his is. or if it's increasing or moving in the wrong direction, it means his. Same thing, with most of our food. So if there can be, like, in order to save costs, if there can be one person in the household at least that's doing some of these more aggressive in-depth labs, then you can most likely know, like, if you're, a mom living in a home with your kids, if you find mold, it's not just going to be impacting you. It could be impacting you more, right? Because we know genetically some people don't detox as well, and mold is more impactful for them.
Right.
But I think, it's also helpful to know that if one person's kind of doing some of the tests, it can be a little helpful for the household in general too.
Right. I think, that goes back to getting the right tests, like genetic testing. Like if we're talking about detoxing, me figuring out that I have the double mutation MTHFR, so I'm like, ooh, really got to push it now with these like whole cleanses and stuff. But I love that. I mean, when I was dating my husband, I asked him for his, birth time, and he's like, why? And it was like natal charts. Mm-hmm. And then he told me the wrong time. And I was like, oh my God, I got the wrong one. So yeah, I didn't go as far as the blood tests at that time, but that'd be interesting to kind of play into account now. But I'm doing the work in our household. I'm getting all the tests done.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the hit. So on Toxic-Free with KB, we talk about a whole slew of things, whether it's household items, environment, food, relationships. What is your overall definition of toxic-free living?
I think it's doing the best you can to reduce your toxic burden. I mean, that could start with, food. You tell me how in depth you want to go, because
I've got all the time.
The house, starting with food and water, right? That's the most, you're consuming those on the most frequent basis, and air. You're actually breathing more than you're eating. So air filtration is super important. We know the indoor air is more polluted than even outdoor air. Plants can be really helpful too, getting fresh air. I think toxins are going to be one of the most detrimental things to humankind, truly, specifically microplastics and nanoplastics, which we can talk about in a second. But reducing your toxic exposure. So getting a high quality air filter, the water filtration, things like rugs and even fabrics. Rugs can harbor bacteria, mold. They can be made with these toxic glues. The same thing with even our couch. My couch is a low toxic couch. So I don't want to overwhelm people. I mean, the bed, it can also, of course, be filled with VOCs. So you want to make sure that your sleeping environment is as high quality and low toxin as possible. I have an organic mattress, on organic sheets. I have a grounding mat on the bed. My clothes, I'm really moving into all natural fibers and fabrics and organic. If you're wearing cotton and it's sprayed with glyphosate, then you're able to absorb that through the skin transdermally. So I would start with the easier, bigger blocks, the air filter, the water filter, the organic food, or growing your own food over the food that's been sprayed with pesticides. But toxins are everywhere in our environment. I mean, I have glyphosate on my total tox burden. It's that means, and I haven't eaten a piece of inorganic food in over a decade. Everything in my house is clean. So it means it's literally just in the air. So when I go out for my walks every night, glyphosate, the water, glyphosate. So it's all about doing the best you absolutely can. And then also increasing your detox pathways. So making sure you're sweating. So we excrete toxins through our stool. So you have to be going to the restroom regularly. Yeah. Multiple days without going to the restroom is not healthy. Our urine and our sweat. So we need to be sweating. If you can't get a sauna, I would recommend doing vigorous exercise or a hot yoga class or something. But even with saunas, we were talking before this episode, I recently became involved in this company, Heavenly Heat. Well, they've been making saunas for 30 years for people with chemical sensitivities. Mm-hmm. You would think that everybody should be making a sauna for people with chemical sensitivities, meaning you don't put additional chemicals into something because people have chemical sensitivities. But amazingly, things like wood glues, plywoods, varnishes are used on a lot of these saunas, specifically the infrared saunas, finished saunas, and any low cost sauna is going to have some of these more harmful products being used. But Heavenly Heat, they were making them for people with chemical sensitivities, so they don't have wood glues. They're not off-gassing VOCs into the chamber or the sauna while you're using it. They're not using the wood glues or the polyurethanes, all of that stuff. It's contributing to a toxic burden. And the thing is that everybody has a different size cup, right? Really based on genetics. But how much can you fill the cup with? So then you have the cup full with beauty products, fragrance, conventional food sprayed with glyphosate, and then you have traditional or conventional water, and you're showering in it, and you're breathing it in, and you're soaking in it, and you're getting those toxins. Everybody's cup is different. My cup could be bigger than yours could be bigger than mine, but eventually it's going to be full, and then it's going to tip over. Then you're going to get a chronic disease, an autoimmune condition, something is going to occur, but these conditions develop over the course of 10 plus years on most occasions. So I think it's really important to just take action with whatever means you can. Cleaning products, for example. I mean, on so many cleaning products, it has a hazard label on the back. And women are, men too clean, but, women are using them and being exposed to these harmful chemicals. You could create your own cleaners for really low cost at home with things like vinegar. I'm using, steam a lot of times, which can help to sanitize things. There's a lot of options out there. There's so many new companies that offer better alternatives, but unfortunately, toxins, you have to address it. I think from a high level, I think we might see some change from the top down, we'll say, potentially, which is exciting to see. I interviewed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on my podcast about a year and a half ago. I've had conversations with him. I've never heard about someone that was a presidential candidate at the time talk about mitochondria.
Right.
I can't endorse everything, but the specific Make America Healthy Again movement, I'm hoping can reduce the time that you as a consumer or me as a consumer have to put in to figure out what is poison. Because unfortunately, you would like to think you go into the grocery store and everything is not quote unquote poison. Well, it's not going to poison you the first time that you do it. It's not going to kill you the first time that you do it, but it's killing you over time. Same thing with these fragrances. I mean, fragrance can be under something called a trade secret, and you don't have to even disclose what's in the fragrance. We know that these phthalates and these PFAS, these forever chemicals, are in so many of our products. So it's step one is becoming aware, learning about what to avoid, and then as you can, swapping out products for better ones.
I love that you just said that because y'all, the overwhelm is real.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, when you talk about clean products, and I'm a clean freak. I get it. I know all the information and I'm still learning, but I'm still, when I hear you talk, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to double check that. Oh yeah, I need to double check that. A Faraday cage. Maybe I should look into that, and all these people that are like, well, gosh, what can I do right now? I don't have the funds. Maybe if we're going to talk monetarily, a lot of people are like, maybe I have 7 kids, 5 kids, 10 kids, whatever. And
I love that.
I'm just trying to feed them at the end of the day. Some people don't have the means. So what would you recommend for someone that does not have the means to get all the cool gadgets, to get all the blood tests? I know you talked about prioritizing, but the ones that you do need. But what is one easy swap that you can make right here, right now?
Well, the biggest thing is just go to bed early. Go to bed early, because if you go to bed early, you're going to have so much more motivation. Your hunger hormone ghrelin, which is a big contributor to those cravings that you get, is going to be reduced. So you're not going to have as many cravings. You're going to be more focused. So you're going to have more energy to go to the gym. I always say one win leads to many wins. So if you go to bed early and you feel great and you wake up before all of these duties begin, before you have to be at work, I feel like so many people are, waking up late, they're groggy, they're just grabbing a carb, this traditional day. I've made posts about it before, but if you just go to bed early, it's going to change your entire next day. So that would be the biggest thing. In terms of actual swaps, I think getting, they're really kind of tied, but figuring out if you save up for it to do an air filtration system. I like the Jasper. I think it's great. And then some sort of even just countertop reverse osmosis. So you can use, your coffee, your drinking water for that. You can use it for cooking too. So, those items, you're looking at about $1,200-ish. And you can also just do the water purifier for about $200. So, I mean, it would be an investment I would try to make, because those two are going to be game changers.
For people that say, I can't afford this, I say, okay, how much do you spend on this, going out to eat, going out for drinks? Maybe cutting back on those a time in your life and using those pennies for something that is a water filter, an air purifier, putting those dollars where they do count for the longer term.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a beautiful, when you added those up, I think that was a beautiful example.
Yeah.
Jumping back to the EMF conversation.
Yeah.
Because, let's talk kids. Okay.
Yay.
There's a whole culture out right now that is gaming culture. Computers, kids are on their phones, yada, 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 yada. And when I was living by myself, I literally lived in this 300 square foot, like 100-year-old cottage in Santa Barbara. And when the sun set at the end of the night, I did only candlelight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm in this house, which I'm so grateful for, my family, but I have very light eyes. And sometimes kids are like, boop, lights on. I'm like, oh, I'm dying. But EMFs too. I'm so energetic and I feel all the things coming at me at all times.
Yeah.
The noises, the sounds, talk about being a highly sensitive person. So can you break down the whole thing about EMFs? Because I feel like a lot of kids, especially, are not educated on what an EMF is, what it's doing to them, not to freak people out so much, but give us the layman's terms of what an EMF is and what to do to help protect yourself and your families.
Yeah. So EMFs are electromagnetic fields or frequencies, and they're primarily emitted from things like smart devices, Wi-Fi routers, AirPods. There hasn't been a ton of research on EMFs, right? So if you Google this right now and you look up, are EMFs harmful, you're going to probably see a result that says that they're non-ionizing and not harmful or nothing to be concerned about. But this is the problem. First, what is the financial incentive to run studies and research on EMFs and their harm? There isn't one, right? But even if you look at your cell phone disclosures and warnings, it says don't put the cell phone on your body. What do? We continually have cell phones on the body, right? In the pockets, up to our face. So yes, we want to avoid these electromagnetic fields. And I do so in really practical ways by not keeping the cell phone on the body, not ever using the phone on my head, and having a on-off switch, which I think is like $30 from Amazon, and it'll switch off your Wi-Fi at night. So I have it switch off at about 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So EMFs, yeah, I mean, it's something that we definitely want to be avoiding. It's actually a form of light, which is really interesting. So it's penetrating our body. We can't see it, but when you're being exposed to an EMF, once in your lifetime, no big deal at all, not a problem. It's this constant exposure from multiple different sources. It is not natural to our bodies. We don't have any research to say that it's safe. And I know that EMFs are linked to a variety of different health conditions, right? That is starting to come out, which I'm excited to see where the future of research on EMFs goes. But I sleep in a Faraday cage, which is pretty extreme. So it literally blocks out all EMFs, like EMF, ELF, and RF frequencies. And it's a wrap around my cage. It looks like a little canopy. But if you're at home and you just want to start to reduce the exposure, because you're right, kids have these Bluetooth headphones on all day long. And even, let's just say in the most basic, when we really think about this, can a signal through your brain all day, all night be healthy? It can't be. I mean, this is also just common sense, So I would recommend doing the wired headphones, much better. That's what maybe you look like a nerd. I do that, but I don't even care. There's also some Faraday materials too. So I have a little Faraday bag that I put my phone in at the gym, and that will block those EMFs as well. So trying to, again, it's, no one's going to be perfect. It's impossible. We're in LA. Even if my Wi-Fi is shut off, the neighbors might not be. So that's why we're sleeping in the cage. But it's all about doing the best that you can.
I love that. The Faraday bag, definitely getting that for the kids. I'm like, stocking stuffers. I'm like, I love all this stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, what is this? I'd be like, just use it. Just use it, please. Actually, they're pretty, they're pretty good on like letting me do what I want. Like at night at dinner, we have the candles only. And, since it's getting colder, like my husband and I were in the family room last night. I was eating dinner and he was on the couch talking to me, and we had like the fireplace on, and that's our light. It's a lot of low light now. And I'm very blessed for that. But I think that's another simple solution for people. I know a lot of people have ups and downs with candles. They say, oh, aren't those like pollutants in general? I'm like, okay, well, I feel like, that's my vice. I don't do a lot of other crazy things, but I'm like, I've got my air purifiers in the room too, and I have the windows open. So let me have my candles.
I agree. The candles are usually a no-go, but I mean, there are better brands these days, that are doing a better job. I got my first candle that I've had in like the last 10 years. My husband loves smells. And, when we had the whole conversation about fragrance and then now he's not using the fragrances, it was a whole thing. So we finally got this one like rosemary candle made with like a tallow wax. And
nice. I like the tallow.
So we have one, but I don't light it that often because what's amazing? I light it and immediately the air purifier goes off. So
really, it's that strong? I've been using beeswax and I'm having an okay time with that.
Good. Yeah. I do red lights at night. So as soon as the sun sets, all the lights in the house are red or orange. Nice. And just this as a tip, for anyone. So I didn't watch television prior to my husband, but he enjoys it and it's a way for him to wind down.
Yep,
so
agree.
You can actually go into your television and do a red color filter on it. So you go to like accessibilities and then color filters and then red. He didn't love it at first. He said it like, lessened the quality or the picture, but you just get used to it. Same thing with the phone. You Google red light phone trick. So my phone will go completely red, not just like a little orange.
Oh.
And just then, you're mitigating these, sources of blue light as much as you can.
Babe, we're doing it tonight. He's going to be like, what's going on here? We're like, guess what I learned today?
I know.
On brain health, for someone new to brain health optimization, where would you recommend starting?
I have to go, sleep, number one. The brain loves sleep. So we have a system in our body called the glymphatic system. It's like our lymphatic system, part of it, but it's in the brain primarily. So at night when we're sleeping, the glymphatic system is most active. So get a high quality sleep. Very, very important for so many reasons. Movement, our brains love movement. If you're lifting something heavy, your brain just lights up. It's active. It loves this. So moving your body. Brain healthy diet it's a version of the Mediterranean diet. So it's a lot of, dark leafy greens, wild caught salmon. We really want to get those omega-3s. There's 3 supplements that I think are pretty universal, right? Everybody asks me what supplements I take. I take like 30 supplements a day. A lot of them aren't applicable to everyone. It's based on my data. But vitamin D, omega-3s, and magnesium, I think are universal for everybody. Of course, you want to consult with your doctor, but our brain loves omega. So any of those like wild caught fish, blueberries, low glycemic fruits, brains love those as well. That's where I would start. I also think, getting morning sun in the eyes is a great way to tell your brain that it's time to wake up. So we can really jumpstart our circadian rhythm.
I love that. My mom, she was a functional nutritionist forever and ever and ever. And she'd always say, you want to have a fat brain. You want to have a fat brain.
Yeah, our brain is mostly fat and water. It's also the most energy consumptive organ in our body. So our brain's about 2 pounds or so, but it consumes about 30% of our calories. So every single piece of food that I'm eating, we're dealing with this really epidemic of mental health issues. And it's for a variety of different reasons. And I think that they're very real and hope that you seek help if you need that. But when I think about what am I putting into my body, because my brain is going to use most of that. So I always think, do I want to be like a grass-fed steak or wild-caught salmon and blueberries, or do I want to be a bag of Doritos and a Twinkie? It's like, what's going to make the brain perform optimally?
What about biohacking in your daily habits?
Yeah.
Some people love this concept and some don't. Some people are like, I don't believe in that, whatever. So how do you incorporate biohacking into your daily routine? You have your morning, your midday, and your evening routines.
So much. A lot of biohacking is just changing the environment internally and externally to benefit your health. But I think some of the more popular and well-known ones now are cold therapy. So I do cold therapy in the first half of my cycle. So I do cold therapy during the follicular phase of my cycle up until ovulation. And then during my luteal phase, I kind of ease off of cold therapy. But cold therapy is amazing. It boosts your dopamine up to 2 times. It is great for releasing endorphins. Really helps bring focus, drive, motivation. You can use it as like a morning pick-me-up, or I typically do mine in the middle of the day. So instead of having a coffee or something, I'll just do a midday cold therapy. It's also great because I have the sun. So I'm doing, sun exposure and getting cold therapy at the same time. Red light therapy, super popular. So red light topically is great for the skin, like boosting collagen and elastin. It can help with heal scars, and it can be great for just like the skin health. But then the infrared rays can penetrate into your mitochondria, which is the energy centers of our body. And I love red light therapy. I do red light therapy 3 to 4 times per week, about 10 minutes per session. And I have like a full body panel. So I can get, full body exposure, which is great. Other biohacking practices, I mean, this is not very common, but I have a hyperbaric oxygen therapy chamber in my bedroom. So it's a medical grade chamber, hard shell. I'm doing a protocol of 40 sessions, 1-hour sessions, 5 times per week at 2.0 ATA. That's my body protocol.
What's ATA?
Yeah, so that's a measurement of pressure. So a lot of people in homes, they'll have like a soft chamber, which goes to about 1.5 ATA. So this one's, when you think about hyperbaric therapy, you want to think about almost like a dive. So it's like the pressure of having like water on top of you, if that makes sense. And then it's full of oxygen. So the air we're breathing right now is about 21% oxygen. This is 80% pure oxygen, and the pressure drives it into the cells. So I do hyperbaric therapy during my midday routine. I do tons of walking. I get minimum 10,000 steps, usually more like 15,000. We live up here in the hills, so I get some really good zone 2 cardio. I do intentional exercise. I'm strength training 3 to 4 times per week. I do VO2 max training 1 to 2 times per week. That's all out exertion. So I'll do 4-minute sprint, 4-minute kind of like jog and rest period, jog, walk, and then 4 minutes all out again, 4 minutes again. Do that 4 times for VO2 max, which we know is a marker of longevity. What other biohacking? I love even intranasal red light photobiomodulation.
Ooh, tell me about that.
I have a V light, so it's actually intranasal red light. We know that the brain and the ovaries have the highest concentration of mitochondria. So again, red light therapy is great for mitochondrial function. So it goes up the nose and it's a red light. It's amazing. I do a device called Pulsetto, which is good for HRV. I usually do that more towards the evening, but it's a vagal nerve stimulator. So our vagal nerve runs from our brain down our body, and it's better for HRV to have a stronger vagal nerve tone. You can also do it with things like yodeling or humming, chanting. So I use a device for that called Pulsetto. I do all my biometrics too once a week. So I'm looking at body composition, things like bone density, muscle mass, fat mass, my overall trends. Am I getting, more fat and less muscle? That's not the way we want to go. I look at my grip strength. I'm in the 99th percentile for women my age. I look at lung health with a spirometer. I look at blood pressure. So these are all like metrics I'm looking at home. And then I use these kind of biohacking modalities. I mean, I think peptide therapy is kind of in the biohacking world. I'm currently on a peptide called thymosin alpha-1, and that's great for reducing inflammation. I've done BPC 157. That is really good for recovery. It can be great for gut health. There are skin peptides like GHCKU, which is like a copper peptide that you can do. I've done cycles of that in the past. There's MOTS-C that people sometimes use for insulin regulation and insulin issues. So that's a great one. If you name a biohack, I'm sure I'm doing it and have it. I don't want to have like the world's longest list and make people feel overwhelmed though.
So this is your job though.
Yeah.
Like this is your job. I think everyone needs to take this into account because like even I'm going to say acronyms, the acronyms that you're telling me, I'm like, huh? What? Okay, write it down. I need to look that up because like I am the type of person that's like, yeah, this is my job too, to research on a daily basis. And I go down a rabbit hole. And I want people to understand that like, yeah, these can be really scary moments where you're like, should I be doing that? Like, what can I do better? And so not to scare you guys, but you can do little changes. I love that you said for like the vagal nerve, that's really important to keep regulated in our lives. I want you to tell us why, but also I would love for you to yodel for us.
You can't put me on the spot. I don't yodel. I use the falsetto, but you could yodel. How about you yodel? Okay, see, you're way more prepared for that than me.
But the vagal nerve, why is it important to keep that regulated? I think we really should jump into that really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the grand overview is is it's connected with our nervous system, right? We
Mm.
need to have more control over our nervous system. So we have this sympathetic, which we call fight or flight, but unfortunately, people are finding themselves in this sympathetic overdrive constantly. It's the emails, it's the comparison, it's the toxins too. I mean, there's both physical and mental attributes that lead to overdrive of our sympathetic nervous system. And then we have our parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. One major hack that's totally free is do a breathwork practice, long inhales, extra long exhales before you eat, because that's going to help you actually absorb the nutrients better. Mindfully chew your food. Try to chew 15 plus times because that saliva is actually breaking up the food, but it's also increasing your digestive enzymes naturally. So parasympathetic state is the rest and digest. And we're currently in a place where it's very difficult for people to switch between those modes, right? Or we're getting stuck in our sympathetic state. So by increasing your vagal tone, you're going to be able to more easily move between those states and potentially even be more in a parasympathetic state over time. And I also love the benefits of heart rate variability, or HRV, because HRV is a measurement of our stress. HRV is the amount of time in between heartbeats. So if you think about your heart beating really fast, there's going to be a very small amount of time between those heartbeats, right? If your heartbeat is slower, you're going to have more time between those heartbeats. So I love to do a bunch of different tests and modalities to see what's moving the needle on my HRV, because our nervous system is so incredibly important to everything. Nutrient absorption, digestion. 80% of doctors' visits, I believe, are related to stress. So we have to get a control over our stress levels. Breathwork can be a great way, improving vagal nerve tone, walking in nature. Nature bathing has been used for, hundreds of years. Lots of literature on it out of Japan, and it can be incredibly beneficial. Just getting out into nature, grounding, making contact with the earth.
Those are really great solutions.
And yodeling. You can
And
do it for free.
You can do it for free. You can hum. Someone, I don't know who was telling me, but they were saying when your brain is ruminating, go for a walk and hum. Just go, because your brain cannot think about anything else when you're focusing on that vibrational energy or the hum or the sound or the yodel or whatever you're doing, just exercising that. I think that's an easy tip to do. That is, hey, one step in the right direction, right? That is one win for your day. It's like making your bed first thing in the morning. You've got one win.
Yeah.
Another thing on the being mindful and eating too, we're in such a rapid, fast-paced world. Like time is speeding up. And, taking those deep, really full breaths before you consume a meal, saying some gratitude, right? Just being like, oh my gosh, I get this nourishment, what have you. Also, I eat with chopsticks. So I make sure that I'm very mindful with every single bite I eat, because
That's a good idea.
it makes you totally, consume the whole product and enjoy the flavors of it. I think that's what we're lacking these days. And therefore we're like, we don't know what real food tastes like.
Yeah.
So there's some really easy hacks that you guys can like totally jump on board with. We talked about this briefly before, but I wanted to relate with you because I got called no fun because of my lifestyle, because I don't drink. I really don't. I'm such an introvert that I have that social anxiety, and it's hard for me to get out of the house and socialize and do the party things. I've never been like that ever since I was a young girl. How do you balance these strict protocols? And are you flexible with your routines?
I'm not that flexible, but
Thank you for your honesty, by the way.
yeah. Well, thank you. But I think so many people know what I'm doing, and my friends are just aware of it. You are who you surround yourself with, right? So people are excited to come over for like an organic home cooked meal by me, and leave early because we have to go to bed. It's just normal. We've just kind of set these standards within our life, and we enjoy and love people and love having them over. And I would prefer to usually host here, but yeah, it's really just setting kind of a hard line for yourself. And I don't feel like I'm lacking with doing that.
I love that. You are who you surround yourself with. That is something I think, especially going into the new year, or whatever year it is, whatever point it is, a new week, the Monday, right?
Yeah.
Starting it on Monday, you are who you surround yourself with. So check that,
And don't even wait until Monday. Like there's no better time. If you're listening to this podcast, take one small step today. Sit down, think about your purpose, write it out, then create a plan. Like humans thrive when we are conquering something, moving forward, making progress. We love that. It's a great feeling. So write down your purpose after this podcast. Write down the next couple of small steps that you can make, whether that be meditating tonight for 2 minutes. Make it attainable, make it doable. We know that changing everything in one fall swoop doesn't normally work. So we want to just stack these habits on top of each other. But the best time to start is right now. And you deserve it. That's the thing. I always say people can't outperform their level of self-esteem. And just let that sink in for a second. Are you not being healthy because you don't think you deserve it? Because that's not the truth. You 100% deserve it. And the way that you eat, the way that you sleep, the way that you move, that's all loving yourself. And it's giving you, I always say health is the foundation of greatness, right? So I can love my husband better if I'm done the practices and invested in myself. When I have children, I'll be able to show up better for them by investing in myself. So I think take action today. Right now.
I'm curious, what brings you joy?
Great lab data. Truthfully, great lab data. Loving my husband. I said being married is the biggest biohack I've ever done because I have this sense of peace and safety that I've never experienced in my life. I was doing all of this stuff, this insane routine, waking up at, the crack of dawn well before Warren, and I'm maintaining those things. But the level of peace that I have by someone that I can love so deeply and that loves me so deeply is just an absolute game changer.
You make me really emotional saying that because I can 100% relate to you. It's like I couldn't have this life, even more full than what it was without that other person. It's a feeling. It's a feeling. And, when we talk about, you being recently married and having Warren in your life, how does love play a huge pivotal role in longevity?
Studies are saying that loneliness is as dangerous as smoking. The statistics in terms of smoking and loneliness are similar, right? So I'm so excited that the press is interested in featuring a married couple because everyone else that's in the industry is kind of like solo, for the most part. It's single individuals, people saying don't sleep in bed with a partner because it might disrupt your sleep quality. I think relationships are so incredibly important, for fulfillment, happiness, and longevity. We know if we look at the blue zones, right? Like these are the longest lived people. They all have community. They all spend time with one another. And there's a lot of buckets to fill, right? Like we have to think about the diet, exercise, and then now we have to add on community. It's find people that are interested in the same thing that you're interested in. Before Warren, this is how I would make friends. I'm not joking. I would go to the gym. I would be there already at an early time. So it's already going to be a small subset of people. And then I would find the girls that looked like they were working out the most intense and they were the most fit. And I would literally go up to them and say, do you want to be my friend? I got lucky a few times, one time, and they already followed me, which was amazing. So, but either way, I'm just like, do you want to be my friend? Because I know that by working, first of all, we're going to have things in common.
Right.
Second of all, they're also going to push me because they're in great shape. Like my workout partner that was back in Ohio was just like shredded and like just super excited to work out. So you have to find people to love and that love you back in a really genuine and authentic way.
I love that. Let's talk about balancing the biohacking, right? There's all these routines that we could do. For someone with a extremely busy lifestyle, how can they balance those biohacking tactics?
Yeah. Habit stacking for sure. So attach it to things you'd already be doing. Like, for example, while you're brewing your coffee, you could do morning squats, or you could do oil pulling, or you could do tongue scraping. You can add something into that small amount of time between. So build it into your routine, like walking for all your meetings. Great way to hit your step count, right? You can even do small exercises while you're at your desk. So I have my desk set up. I have a Nanovi, which is great for reducing oxidative stress, but it could be whatever the thing you need to do. So you could set your red light therapy panel on your desk and be getting red light therapy while doing your work. You can have a walking treadmill at your desk while you're working, so you're still getting your steps in. I do a lot of little biohacks too, at my desk as well. I do like a red light therapy cap for my hair protocol, do it while I'm seated at my desk. I have like a lung health trainer that I can also do while I'm seated at my desk. So think through how you can incorporate it into your routine. Sauna, I mean, for quite a while, I'm now doing sauna right after my exercise, but I was spending time with my husband while doing sauna. So we would watch the sunset in the evening
Oh,
and we would do sauna, spend time together. It's really checking multiple boxes at once. So how can you integrate these practices into your lifestyle?
I love that. That's beautiful. So ending the show here, I have a couple of inkling questions here about what is one thing that people may not know about you that you'd like to share?
I feel like I shared in the beginning of the podcast that I wasn't born rich. I worked really hard for the things that I have. I have expanded my wardrobe colors from only black and gray to blue, like I have on today. I'm trying to branch out a bit.
I think navy blue is the new black.
I agree. I love it.
I love it. So regal. Like it's very classy. Even though I'm wearing black today, I'm okay. What's next in your career and your personal life?
Lots of fun stuff. Excited to expand the clinic. So we're going to be opening new locations of Live, which is great. It'll make our services available to more people. My husband and I are, doing some fun health ventures. So stay tuned for that.
I will.
I've been working on my first female specific product. I always said I would never do a supplement if it was already out there because I know so many incredible owners of supplement companies. And first of all, I'm not trying to compete. Second of all, they're already doing it great, but I think there's something that's missing from the market and that will launch sometime next year.
Ooh, please let me know. I will try it all for sure. What is your everyday non-negotiable? I feel like I already know it.
Yeah.
Your life.
So many. Yeah. I mean, I have so many non-negotiables, but I would say getting to bed early, not eating, any food with pesticide on it, getting morning sun, getting movement.
You were talking about coffee, though. I have to ask you on the coffee topic because my husband loves coffee. I love tea. But what is your favorite coffee brand?
Mm-hmm. It's called, it's Holistic Coffee Roasters. It's biodynamic coffee.
Okay.
I first encountered it at Erewhon. I will send you a link, but I love it. They send me all their lab tests. Coffee can be really heavily pesticided with, again, glyphosate. And then also it can contain molds and mycotoxins. So I have all their lab reports and they update me with them as they get new lab reports. So that one's my favorite.
Beautiful. And besides sleep, what is one easy toxic-free habit we can all start doing today, right here, right now?
Sunshine. Yeah.
Be a plant, guys. Be a plant.
We should talk about this though, because sometimes I forget that some people are, don't have any sunshine right now. If I didn't have sunshine, I would do either like a Lux lamp or there's an actual lamp. It's a company called Spurdy, and it actually is a vitamin D lamp. So those are options as well.
Ooh, vitamin D lamp. I need this. I need it like all the time in my life because we get so much fog up in Santa Barbara.
Yeah. You have to be careful though, because it actually will give you a tan. So you have to watch out.
Oh,
for your
really?
skin. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Where can all of our listeners and viewers find and follow you?
My website is kaylabarnes.com. I actually launched this really fun female specific membership too. So that's on kaylabarnes.com. It's great because I get so many questions, DMs, things that I wanted a place where women could be vulnerable, share what they're really going through, have a community of other like-minded women. So you get tons of courses, like there's I think 8 different courses just on nutrition, my exact exercise protocol, updates to my protocol, everything on toxins, a healthy home checklist, links to all the stuff that I use. I share studies every single day of things that I'm reading just to keep you up to speed. Any changes? I mean, I just made a change. I'm going on rapamycin for, there's research to show that it can delay ovarian aging by up to 5 years. So all of my updates are there. It's kaylabarnes.com. And then you can just go membership. I think I made it very affordable so people can join. I don't want it to be something that's not available for most people. If you have an issue and you can't afford it and you want to be a part of it, then send us an email. You can find that online and we want to get you in either way. And then my Instagram is Kayla Barnes.
I love it. Check. Yeah. And there's your community, folks.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being on the show. You're welcome back having me anytime.
Thanks for having me.
All right. What a show. But now we have time for our hot habits. I love this part of the show because I get to share with you some things that I've been practicing more and more in my life. Y'all know that I'm a swimmer and baby girl loves to do her laps in the morning. But when I had a hairdresser tell me like, your hair looks a little green, I was like, what? I knew that I had to change something along the way. Obviously, in Santa Barbara, our water content, just in general, is not the best. It has a lot of calcification in it. And I was like, I think that's the problem. I was showering at the pool to save time, and I was like, I've got to change things. This is an easy hack that you guys can kind of incorporate into your lives as well. So by me showering at home and filtering my shower water, my hair has never looked better. And also, to be honest with you, my skin has never looked better. So guys, easy hack for you to take on yourself. I know there's a lot of brands. If you don't have reverse osmosis going through your home in a whole and in general, you can buy individual shower heads and put them on to filter your shower water. So take that to note. Trust me, you'll love it. And moving on to our trendy trends, liver cleanses. I mean, I'm also practicing this probably as a habit currently, but I know what I've seen on the market right now. The liver is getting a lot of love, but I want you guys to make, special caution here that you might be paying a lot of money for things that may not actually be working. So easy solutions that I think you should take note of before you pay the big bucks for all these tinctures and tonics that you're like, well, it says liver cleanse on it. It must work. What about just eating rich in antioxidant foods and other nutrients that support the liver function and detoxification as a whole? Some examples are mung beans, dark leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, berries, garlic, turmeric, green tea, citrus fruits. Start with a simple list, get them organic, toxic-free, and trust me, it'll go a long way. Your gut will thank you. All right, thanks for tuning in as always. I appreciate y'all, and remember, you're doing your best, and your best is great. See you next time. Thanks for watching Toxic-Free with KB. Please subscribe to the show, comment below, and check us out on Instagram at toxicfree.kb and TikTok at toxicfreewithkb. See you next time. This is a Kilo Bravo Media production brought to you by Rainbow Creative.